Hello everyone, morning and welcome to my channel. My name's Ian and I'll tell you, what I do is I read stories, old stories from about 50 years ago at least, because they've been put in writing because they've been documented as fact. Whereas the internet nowadays mixes things up and tells lies, so I'll keep on reading these stories because these are all true. So today I'm going to read you a story about the kraken. Yeah, so that's a mythical creature, but I'll read it anyway. So I'll start now. Please subscribe to my channel and like my channel, because I need subscribers. I want to get as many as I can. I don't have too many, but I'll keep plodding on. Thank you. Right, so I'll start now. The fishermen's nets were stretched almost to breaking point. Something was making the water teem with shoals of fish. The men worked feverishly, knowing that the invisible creature terrifying the fish could at any moment rise from the sea and swallow their whole ship, or it might choose to pluck them one by one from the deck. They knew it was the kraken, the biggest of the giant sea monsters. Many such stories around in Norway's literature for legend has it that fishermen over the centuries have been terrorised by the sudden appearance and disappearance of the Leviathan. The skull at the back of a fully grown kraken was about 1.5 miles long, with its bumpy spine and tentacles floating like strands of seaweed. It was often mistaken for a good-sized island. Several writers have described the kraken, or sea corvan. Bishop Pontoppidan of Bergen, Norway, wrote in 1755 that floating islands which appeared and disappeared and suddenly in the northern seas were certainly kraken. The Bishop of Nidaros found a kraken on the shore. Thinking it to be a rock, he set up an altar on its back and celebrated Mass. The creature waited respectfully until the bishop had finished, and then quickly slipped into the sea and vanished. Modern skeptics tend to dismiss the kraken, saying that witnesses had probably been confused by sightings of giant squid. But in the vast depths of the sea, who knows, perhaps as Tennyson wrote, below the thunders of the upper deep, far, far beneath, in the abysmal sea, is his ancient dreamless, unaided sleep, the kraken sleepeth. That's a story about the kraken. So I'll do the next one is about, well, it's called the giant snake of the deeps. Right. Tales of giant monsters lurking deep below the waves have been passed down through successive generations of fishermen and sailors in almost every country in the world, but no monster has ever been authenticated than the giant sea serpent, which is said to have its lair off the east coast of Brazil. One of the most reliable accounts of its appearance came in 1905 when two members of the British Royal Zoological Society were travelling on the steamship Valhalla off the coast of Brazil. The two men, Meade Waldo and Michael Nicol, were on deck when they saw what at first appeared to be a rock. Waldo later wrote, "I looked and immediately..." I can't believe I just said that and that came out by accident, I'm sorry. Waldo later wrote, "I looked and immediately saw a large fin or frill sticking out of the water, dark seaweed, brown in colour, somewhat crinkled at the edge. It was apparently about 6 foot in length and projected from about 18 inches to 2 foot from the water. I could see under the water to the rear of the frill the shape of a considerable body. A great head and a neck rose out of the water in front of the frill. The neck appeared about the thickness of a man's body. The head had a very turtle-like appearance, as also the eye. I could see the line of the mouth, but we were sailing pretty fast and quickly drew away from the object. It moved its neck from side to side in a peculiar manner. The colour of the head and neck was dark brown above and whitish below. The monster seems to have made another appearance within 14 hours, for Nicol reported a great commotion in the water. The first and third mates of the Valhalla also saw it. Nicol wrote, "At first they thought it was a rock awash about 100 to 150 yards away, but they soon made out that it was something moving and going slightly faster than the ship, which was at the time doing about 8.5 knots. One of the crew, who was also on lookout, saw it too. Although there was a bright moon at the time, they could not make out anything of the creature itself, owing to the amount of wash it was making. But they say that from the commotion in the water, it looks as if a submarine was going along just below the surface." The monster disappeared. After several minutes, John Lockhart, who in 1924 wrote about the sightings in Mysteries of the Sea, commented, "Most of the witnesses agree on certain outstanding features. It is a long serpentine creature. It has a series of bumps. Its head is rather like a horse's. Its colour is dark on top and light below. It moves by undulations up and down. It appears during the summer months." But Lockhart added it is harmless, for it never actually attacked anybody. The Valhalla account tied in with previous sightings made centuries earlier, also describing a long serpentine animal which snaked through the sea. In the 4th century BC, Aristotle wrote of large serpents off Libya. Mariners sailing along the coast have told how they have seen the bones of many oxen, which it was apparent to them had been devoured by the serpents, and as their ships sailed on, the serpents came to attack them, some of them throwing themselves on a trireme and capsizing it. In 1555, the Archbishop of Uppsala in Sweden, Olaus Magnus, described a sea serpent measuring 200 foot long and 20 foot thick. It had hair hanging from its neck and sharp scales. Or another Norwegian, a missionary called Hans Egede, wrote of a terrible sea monster he saw in 1734 near Greenland. It had a long sharp snout and blew like a whale, had broad large flippers, and the body, as if were covered with a hard skin, was very wrinkled and uneven. On its skin, moreover, on the lower part, it was formed like a snake, and when it went under the water again it cast itself backwards, and in doing so it raised its tail above the water, a whole ship length from its body. That evening we had very bad weather. Reports of sea serpents in the 19th century were centred on the animal of Stronsa in the Orkneys in 1808. The carcass of a monster was seen by fishermen, and the experts inspected the body. Some said that the animal was unknown to science. Others said that the remains were those of a basking shark. For years controversy raged, but learned opinion finally agreed that the carcass was indeed that of a basking shark. The most famous sea serpent spotting was in 1848 by the captain and crew of HMS Daedalus off the African coast in the Atlantic. Captain Peter McQuahey reported that he saw an enormous serpent, its head and shoulders kept about 4 foot constantly above the surface of the sea. It had no fins, but something like a mane of a horse, or rather a bunch of seaweed, washed about its back, said the captain. Zoologists were not convinced that the legendary serpent had been sighted, and explained the monster away as a large species of seal or a squid. But while some zoologists dismissed the sea serpent as pure folklore, others equally qualified mentioned that somewhere in the vastness of the world's oceans there may exist at least one such creature, perhaps the last remaining descendant of the gigantic animals that ruled the earth for millions of years before man appeared. That was quite a good one, that. I'm going to read a short one now. Um, this one's called Storm Raiser in Monk's Robes, right? So I'll start now. Seagoing men as far apart as Scandinavia and the Orient once told stories of a strange creature which could raise storms. They called it the sea monk or sea bishop. The sea monk of Norway was a small and normally inoffensive animal. Despite its frightening appearance, it got its name from its monk's cowl and tonsured head. It had fins for arms and a human face, although of a crude kind. The Far Eastern variety is sometimes referred to as the sea bonze. A bonze is a Buddhist monk. Sailors feared it, for as well as causing storms, it sometimes attacked their junks and capsized them. Sailors performed a ritual dance whenever a sea monk threatened. On every junk, there was at least one deckhand who was specially trained to ward off the creature by waving a stick decked in red streamers. It has been suggested that the sea monk was conjured up by imaginative seamen who had glimpsed skates or rays. The underside of the ray, with its strangely shaped gills or mouth, bears a faint resemblance to a deformed human face. And that's enough now for today, for now. I hope you enjoy them stories. Please keep watching and listening and learning. And please, can you press the like button and subscribe to my channel? Thank you very much. Have a nice day. Bye.